Good morning, guys. It is super bright out, and today we're gonna get the fridge installed, and I want to build a box for the fridge to sit on that'll have some storage underneath it. So if you watch the kitchenette video, I drew like a whole 3D diagram on SketchUp. I'm not gonna do that for this just because it's a much simpler design and it's just a box. But I've just drawn up a basic sketch of where that box is gonna sit, and then this long leg, I'm not sure what that length is going to be because that'll actually come over this step, but I'll figure out that length when I get to it. So I basically just have, this is the top piece, or sorry, this is the bottom piece, which will be here, and this is the top piece, which will be here. And then the reason that that gap is there is because the long piece, the support leg that'll be on top of this, will sit under the corner and then come all the way down in between those two pieces, which are right here. So I don't know if that makes sense, but once you see it, I think visually you'll understand what I'm saying. I should also show you that I opened up the fridge. So this is the chest fridge that we're going to be installing, and I just grabbed measurements for it, and that's where I came up with all these numbers. And then once you have the outer dimensions, it's really easy to just do quick math and fill in the dimensions of the wood that you're cutting. So like if I know this long piece is going to be 24 inches, but it's going to come between these two legs, because 2x2s are 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, I know I can just take 3 inches off of that 24, and then I have a piece that's 21 inches. As always, I'm pre-drilling these before I put the screws in, and I don't have a workbench, so I'm just holding them in place. All right, here's our bottom piece, onto the top one. I got the top piece cut and put together, just like the other one. I'm gonna fit this in the van and make sure, dropping them, and just make sure our fitment is going to work out. So you got the bottom piece, that's the one with the cutout. Gonna sit right about there. I'm gonna line it up and put it right in line with the kitchenette, but won't worry about that when we get there. And then this one is going to sit here. Hopefully you can see that. And then I need to figure out how long to cut that support piece once we get the other supports in. So we'll go get those 3 put in and then find the length for that long one. There it is. So this is actually the bottom. So I'll flip it over and put it in the van and see how it looks. To get a better idea of where exactly this is going to be sitting, I dropped the bed down. It's got our clearance there, and I basically just eyeballed it, tried to line it up there, and then took the ruler and put it in the step, and then got a measurement for how long to make that leg piece. So I think it's gonna be 15 5/8, which obviously doesn't mean anything to anyone like replicating this. They're all, you know, custom heights, however you want to do it. But I'm gonna cut it and see how that works, and then might need to cut it again. I don't know, we'll see what happens. Because it's hard to tell exactly, because there is a little bit of shifting here and like pushing it down. I don't know exactly how it's gonna sit, but we'll cut that piece and then kind of adjust how we need. There is a gap, but I think the pressure of the fridge will actually hold that down just fine. So I'm gonna screw it in. If I need to adjust it later, I will. See how that fits. I think that's pretty good. Once there's weight on it, it'll of course sit just a little bit different, but I think that'll work out great. So next up, we need to get some face pieces on it, and then yeah, cut out the face pieces, do some sanding, and then painting. I'm gonna cut out the top piece first. I'm doing that in this 1/2 inch ply, just because it's, you know, weight bearing, so thicker, stronger, and then I'll do the sides in this 1/4 inch. That looks good. Got it secured down. There's still some rough edges, but I don't like to sand until the very end, because I'm just gonna end up sanding it multiple times if I was to sand it now. So once I have all the face pieces on, then I'll sand it really well, and we'll do some putty over the screws. So make sure with these screws that you're getting them under the surface of the wood, because we're gonna putty them in. If you haven't watched my kitchenette video, I would recommend watching that, because I just go a lot more in depth with it. But we're gonna putty in all those screws and then sand everything before we paint it, so that way it just has a really clean finish. I've got the first face piece drawn out, so that's gonna go right here and then curve down a little bit, just to create a nice little trim piece on that leg. And I sketched it out, figured out the dimensions first, so should come out just fine. That face piece is cut out. I've got it turned now on its side. And my box isn't completely square, so that edge doesn't line up. But I've got trim that'll cover up that edge, and then it'll look just fine. It's the same trim that I put on the kitchenette, so they'll match and look really well together. So I'm gonna do pre-drill holes, get the screws in, and then just move on to the next piece. This next piece took a little bit longer to draw out, because I wanted to get those nice curved edges in there, because that face will just be open, so you can, you know, reach out or reach in and grab things, and, you know, just the access to the storage space. So I'll get that one cut out and screwed in, then we'll see how it looks. That is moving right along. It's looking pretty good. This is the front piece by the door. And this will be on the inside of the van. Easy cubby space. So I need 2 more faces, one there, one on the back, and then that'll be good to go. Got all the sides on that finished up. Opening there, and it's looking pretty good. I did forget one thing. Well, I just remembered. So this is the spot that's gonna be sitting on the step in the van. So under here, it's actually hollow. And to avoid having things fall through that hole, I need to cut a piece and close that off. But besides that, I just need to get the trim cut. So I'm gonna get the piece to fill the gap. I'm gonna cut the trim and then get the trim attached. And then probably give you an update once that is good to go. I keep referencing the kitchenette video just because it's very similar to what I'm doing now. But if you haven't seen that video, I'll show you my technique for getting the trim on and then go from there. Here's my brilliant idea to hold all the trim corners in. Ratchet straps. So those are on there tight, they're not gonna move at all. That way I can pre-drill them all and screw them all in super quick, and I don't have to worry about keeping them lined up because they're secure, they're not going anywhere. I just split the wood. Luckily this is the back corner and it'll be hidden. So I'll just putty over that. It didn't break off, but it's split. So I need to use a bigger drill bit for pre-drilling my holes. That one went in a lot better. I left off in kind of a bad spot yesterday because I had to take off, and right before that I was trying to put this trim on, and the wood multiple times I couldn't get, so I got a little bit of a split there, and then I couldn't get the screws to like sink into the wood. And I think the problem is this is the same shape as the trim that I did on the kitchenette, but it's a different type of wood and it's more dense, and I think that's why I was having the splintering issue. So what I did, I pulled the straps off and I just put wood glue under that trim on both sides of it, and then put the straps back on. So that's been sitting for, I don't know, like 22 hours now, and it should be good to go. So I'm gonna pull the straps off. Hopefully those are secured really nice. The wood glue should be holding them no problem. And the best way to really go about this is to use a brad nailer, but I don't have one, and I think it's good to be doing this in a way that I'm not utilizing specialty tools so that anyone can follow along without needing things like that. So I'll take the straps off and see kind of how it held up, or if I need to figure out something else. It seems pretty solid. I obviously don't want to like yank on it super hard because at some point it'll break off, but looks pretty good. There's a bit of a gap here, so I'll go ahead and fill that in with the putty or the spackling gap filler, whatever we're calling it. So I did the top yesterday and I wanted that to have a real seamless finish, so I put some on there and just kind of smeared it around. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish filling the rest of the holes, and then we'll get it sanded and painted. It's looking pretty good. I think it's finished up. Of course, I need to let that all dry, because anything that's still that purple pink color, I can't sand yet, but the stuff that's white, I can start sanding. So gonna get it sanded down really nice, and then I'll show you how it looks, and then we'll finally get to painting. I've got it all sanded up and came out nice and smooth, looks good. So I can go ahead and start painting now. I need to, while I'm painting, I've got this 2-inch brush, and I'm going to go around all these inside edges and fill them in first. And then once those edges are all filled in, I'll take the roller and just do like the bulk of it. So that way it's hard to get the roller in those edges between the trim and the faces. So I'll get those painted first, and then, like I said, roll out the rest of it. There was a note I was gonna make. Oh, I've dusted this off really well. So you wanna make sure to get any of the little particles from sanding, get that all brushed off. A dry cloth works great, or a shop vac, you know, whatever you have. Just get that cleaned off good before you start painting, so none of that gets mixed in with your paint. The painting came out great. I got a couple coats on there. I'm still, I'm gonna give it probably 10-15 more minutes to completely dry, but looks really nice. And the next thing is to take some L brackets. I'm gonna pull the fridge out and set it on top of here, and I'm gonna secure some L brackets kind of around the top so they fit around the edge of the fridge, and that'll hold it into place. I set the fridge on there and then kind of put these L brackets under it on the sides. So I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of eyeball where they're at and screw them in. And then if I need to shift them a little bit, I can, because there's gonna be 2 screws going in there. So I'll just do one and then check that the fridge fits there. So there's a fridge. And then if I need to shift them a little bit, I can. Oh, perfect. There's a very small amount of wiggle room, but that'll work out great. So I'm gonna do 2 more on the front and then 2 more on the back, and I'll show you how it looks. Those brackets are good to go. So I've got 2 on every side. And it's on there nice and snug. And those are all screwed in. They're not attached to the fridge itself, but I've done this same setup before, and even though the bracket is only 2 inches maybe, I don't know, something like that, it would take some intense driving to get that to like jump off. So it's on there pretty good. It's not going to be a problem. So I'm going to get that moved into the van now. The box actually needs to be secured to the wall, so I'll use some more brackets for that. And then it's pretty much good to go. And you plug it in. I got it secured into the van. So there it is. And this is a little bit tricky. So I had to, I put the box where it was gonna be, and then I set that L bracket in place and marked the holes with a Sharpie. And then I moved the box out of the way, screwed those two in, and then put the box back, and then screwed the L bracket into the leg. So it worked out just fine. It wasn't too tricky, but I also got a bracket there and a bracket on the bottom. So that's in pretty good. It's not going anywhere. And I'll throw in the fridge, see how it looks. Looks good. That door won't stay open because I'm on the driveway. So it keeps wanting to close. But there's our box. And when the bed comes out flat, it's lined up with the kitchenette. So that bench is totally usable as an actual bench. You know, it's got seat belts and everything. And then of course can be laid down. And this runs on, it has a 12-volt plug on it, just like a cigarette outlet. So I'm just gonna be running it off the battery in the back. But I haven't hooked up the electronics yet, so stay tuned for that video. And yeah, the cord is just there. Plug it in here, and then I'll run it along the floor into the back. But I'm pretty happy with that, how that came out. So the van's a mess. I got all kinds of stuff in here. But as always, let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully that was pretty easy to follow along with. It wasn't too crazy. And yeah, see you in the next one.